Imagine being 20 years old, looking for a job in Canada, and facing an unemployment rate so high that it looks and feels like a recession, except the rest of the labor market is doing fine. That is exactly what's happening right now. And a new CIBC report explains why youth are struggling more than anyone else in the market. According to CIBC, unemployment for 15 to 24-year-olds has surged more than 5.5 percentage points since 2022, much worse than the average rise we'd normally see when the economy slows. In fact, youth unemployment is now sitting at levels we typically only see in recessions, while prime-aged workers are doing relatively well. Charts in the report show two concerning trends. Number one, the unemployment rate for young people has spiked. And number two, even more worrying, the employment to population ratio is plunging, which means fewer youth are actually looking for or finding work at all. Part of the story is supply. It would obviously be remiss to ignore the role that population growth and non-permanent residents or temporary foreign workers have played in this. Between 2022 and 2024, Canada's population ballooned, especially among non-permanent residents like international students and temporary foreign workers, and the youth cohort saw the fastest growth of all. More young people looking for work means more competition for every single job. And CIBC estimates that supply factors alone explain more than half of the excess youth unemployment. But here's the kicker. With student visa numbers already being cut, population growth is slowing, yet youth unemployment is still rising. That would tell us that supply isn't the whole story, even if it's a big part of it. This is where demand comes in and where things get interesting. The report highlights the role of technological change, including artificial intelligence. Young workers are overrepresented in sectors that are most exposed to automation, which is jobs that are high risk and have low complementarity with AI. Not a lot of AI working with you, but more competing against you. In other words, they're doing roles that AI can easily replace, but where AI doesn't necessarily create new tasks or new jobs for humans in those roles. Retail jobs are a prime example where self-checkout systems are replacing part-time roles. But it's not just retail, according to this report. Youth unemployment has also struggled in support services and even professional fields where AI is taking on research tasks. And the report shows on this chart here that in AI-sensitive sectors, youth unemployment is lagging dramatically compared to the overall workforce. Now, this isn't just a problem in Canada. The same trend is visible abroad. In the US, youth unemployment has climbed to almost 2 full percentage points since 2022, compared to only half a percentage point for older workers. So this isn't just a Canadian problem. It's part of a global shift where younger workers are bearing the brunt of these structural changes in the labor market, much of which are happening as a result of AI. And so it probably doesn't help that a recent survey came out saying 37% of managers would rather hire AI than offer jobs to Gen Z. Here's why this matters to me in the real estate profession and why I think policymakers should be paying attention. These unemployed and underemployed young people are the future of Canada's housing market. In fact, a recent report just came out from Terranet that shows that first-time homebuyers are overwhelmingly dominating the market right now as the primary buyer of real estate. And the largest portion of those buyers for condos is 25 to 30-year-olds, and the largest portion for freehold homes is 30 to 35-year-olds. So in 5 or 10 years, your 25 to 35-year-olds of the future will be people who are currently underemployed. These are tomorrow's first-time homebuyers and tenants. If they don't have stable jobs or decent wages today, then they can't afford to move out, do new household formation, rent a lot of the supply that's being created today, or save for down payments to buy houses tomorrow. This could really create a problem for exit liquidity for a lot of the houses that need to be sold to fund the retirements of the future retirees. If you think about the way the real estate market works, it's like this step-up model. So you have your first-time home buyers that buy houses off of previous first-time home buyers who then upsize, and then those upsizers buy houses off of perhaps baby boomers who have these 4-bedroom McMansions in sort of your suburban markets. If there's no bid for those kind of top-end upper middle class homes that are overwhelmingly held by the retirees of tomorrow, then there's no exit liquidity for those sellers. And to me, this is probably one of the biggest frictions that could be created and a long-term structural problem with Canada's housing market that is really more of a bear case for real estate in Canada. And I've mentioned a few times on the show, I talk a lot about multiplexes. I do think that policymakers are trying to create demand for those products by making them upzonable or convertible into multi-unit dwellings. This isn't necessarily a policy outcome that most Canadians are in favor of based on the comments that I see on a lot of my videos. But housing affordability isn't just about supply or interest rates, it's about incomes. When you break down housing affordability, it is the price of the property, it's the interest rate on the property, and it's the wage of the buyer. That's mortgage payment as a percentage of household income. It's the primary metric that economists use to measure housing affordability in Canada. Those are the three components that go into calculating it. Wages are a critical part of the affordability equation. Without rising wages for young workers, housing affordability will never improve in a meaningful way. And the housing market recovery, any housing market recovery that we see after we get to the bottom of this cycle, could be fragile as a result. If you have a lot of supply held by potential retirees and very little demand held by underemployed future homebuyers. The CIBC report also shows that newcomers are taking a large share of those entry-level and temporary roles. And National Bank has found that unemployment is the highest among newcomers. And in fact, National Bank was sounding the alarm on this over a year ago in August of 2024, saying the deterioration of the youth job market in Canada is a bad omen, where they highlighted how Canada was seeing a sharp rise in the jobless rate of youth. And the Bank of Canada put out a chart that illustrates that the only cohort of people in Canada who have seen a comparable rise in unemployment is newcomers. So to put this more simply, the groups that make up Canada's renter base and first-time buyer pool are the ones struggling the most to find work. And this is a serious headwind for housing demand and affordability for the years to come. And then we add AI into the mix. As someone who works at valery.ca, an AI-powered real estate brokerage, I see the benefits of technology every day, but I also recognize the risks, and I see how much work is being eliminated by technology in my profession every single day. And so AI is an obvious and sustainable headwind for the future of the labor market, especially for these entry-level jobs that young people and temporary foreign workers rely on to get started in their careers. If policymakers ignore this trend, if they don't support training, job creation, or adaptation in sectors most affected by AI, and in portions of the population most affected by unemployment, we are at risk of creating a generation that is locked out of the housing market entirely. And we're already seeing the borderline civil unrest that comes as a consequence of that. There's massive generational hostility between young people and older people who hold a lot of wealth and real estate assets. There's a lot of frustration and a lot of shifts in political preference and voting patterns as a result of young people feeling locked out. And it's not just because there aren't homes. We're building a lot of houses in Canada. It's because they don't have the wages to afford them. It doesn't matter how many houses you build if people can't afford the rents and can't afford to buy those houses. So here's the takeaway from my perspective. Youth unemployment isn't just a jobs issue, it is a housing issue. If Canada wants a healthier, more affordable housing market, we need to invest in the future workforce. This means supporting young Canadians, balancing the role of newcomers in the labor market, and preparing for an AI-driven economy. Thanks a lot for watching. If you found this breakdown useful, please hit subscribe and check out valery.ca to see how AI is reshaping the future of real estate. As always, thanks for taking the time to watch this video. I really appreciate your time. I'm going to leave you with a question in the comments. What do you think is a more important lever to improve housing affordability in Canada? If you could only pick one, would you choose for prices to come down or wages to go up? Let me know in the comments. I always try and read and respond to every single one of the comments just to show you how much I appreciate the discussion. So I'll see you in there, and hopefully I'll see you again soon.